Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I've learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I have 3 meditation books with me today. I have 2 Melody Beatty books that I haven't been reading as much because I read so much last year. And I have the daily book of Positive Quotations by Linda Picone. So I thought we would start with that because I always think starting your day with positivity is a really good way to, why wouldn't you want to start your day with positivity? You know, I always say on my vlog every single night, when you get up in the morning, say to yourself, today, first of all, you should look at yourself in the mirror and say, I love you, you are valuable, you are important, you matter. You should do these daily positive affirmations about yourself. But then you should also say, today is going to be an amazing day. I'm going to be happy, joyous, and free all day today. And also give yourself an out and say, if something happens today, I can start my day over whenever I want. And, I did that this morning and I was like feeling good all day long, Sometimes I forget to say it. So today has been a great day so far. Looks like we might get a little bit of a rainstorm, but I don't mind a rainstorm, spring rainstorm in the evening. I kind of like it. It cools things down a little bit when it's warm, and it's been a warm day today, so I'm kind of excited for a little bit of a rainstorm. Okay, let's get in here. Today is April 27th. I can't believe that the end of April is almost here. Well, I guess it is here. Let's see. April 27th, giving time. You must give some time to your fellow men. Even if it's a little thing, do something for others. Something for which you get no pay, but the privilege of doing it. Albert Schweitzer. People honor us when they allow us to help them. It shows trust. Trust that we will not look down upon them for being weak or needy. Trust that we will not hold them in our debt. There is no gift too small to matter, no gift that doesn't give back to us as much as it gives to others. I can do something for anybody, I can do something for another person today. It doesn't have to be a big thing. A small gesture can be all that is needed to make a difference. I love this meditation so much. And another thing that I say if you watch till the very end of my vlogs every night is I always say, practice random acts of kindness, but don't tell anyone. And I think to just do small acts of service, they don't have to be huge things, but just small acts of service. One of the things I learned actually from reading a meditation on here about grief, it was a video that I made, and I learned it through that, was to not ask people what they need help with, but to just go and do it. And I love that meditation. It was talking about, when people are going through a time of grief, to just go and do things like mow their lawn or bring them a casserole. And I think that's like such a thing that we used to do back in the day. Like I know my mothers used to, my mother and my aunt, my mothers, they used to always do that. Somebody would pass away and they would get food together and they would arrange, like who's going to go over here on what day and who's going to take care of things. And, I think back in the day, we were smaller communities within smaller communities, and we took care of each other more. I don't see that as much today as I used to. I still see some of it, I do. But I think it's something that is kind of missed. It's something of a bygone era, And I think it's kind of sad a little bit, and I think that if we could get back to that, of being neighborly with one another, and, I don't know, like one of the things is, like when I first moved in this neighborhood, our neighborhood is quite a bit older than us, and so, like I don't think anybody was wanting to become friends with us because, we were much younger, but now it's like I know all the people in my neighborhood, I know the gossip, well most of the people I know in my neighborhood, the gossip of what's going on, and, like who hired this lawn person, and, everybody waves, Alex has been outside working in the yard all day today, and like people are walking by and talking to him, and it's friendly, it's nice, and I think there's a safety and a security in that. I think to just like reach out to people around you, even if it's just your close friends and family, and, just let them know how much they mean to you. I think even that, like especially with what we're going through right now, I've tried to make a concerted effort, especially with my friends that I know that are home alone and they have nobody with them right now, because I think going through this completely alone is really, really hard, And I feel blessed to have my dogs and my husband. But I can't imagine going through this alone right now, and I know so many people that are, and they're doing okay, but it's tough, and I think they get really, really lonely. So I try to reach out to them and talk to them and things like that. Those are little things that we can do that doesn't take a whole lot of effort, just to call somebody or text someone and say, hey, the amount of texts and phone calls in the last 2 months that I have received from people that I had not heard from or thought about in, I don't know, years, has been crazy. Like just some random text. Hey, I was thinking of you today. How are you doing? And I love that, and I think it's so nice. And it's something that I've tried to do more of, and I definitely could do even more of that. So just something to think about. So that's a great meditation. All right, let's go in here. Now, I have to tell you, when I pulled these books out, I'm such a person that believes in having a sixth sense and going with your gut and things like that. When I pull these out, I haven't looked at them at all, but this is the one. Do you see how much this is falling apart? The Journey to the Heart is the book that really spoke to me when I pulled them both out. So let's go in here and see what, here it is. You can see Melody Beatty on the back cover. Is she on the other back of it? No, she's not on the other cover. Poor Melody. Let's go in here and read April 27th. I have a feeling it's going to speak to me today. Okay, April 27th. Love sets others free. One of love's most challenging lessons is freedom. Much of my life, I thought love meant restraint. I couldn't do this if I loved you. You wouldn't do that if you loved me. Certainly, there are times when love asks us to make choices, but love doesn't limit. It doesn't confine, as I once believed. Love brings with it the gift of freedom. Love teaches us how to allow the person we love to do as he or she chooses. It teaches us to encourage the people we love freely to make their own choices, to seek their own paths, to learn their lessons, their way and their own time. Love that restrains isn't love, it's insecurity. We may tell others how we feel about something they do or don't do. We may make decisions as a reaction to others' choices. That is our right and our responsibility. But to restrain another in the name of love doesn't create love, it creates restraint. Love means each person is free to follow his or her own heart, seek his or her own path. Love means each person is free to follow his or her own heart, seek his or her own path. If we truly love, our choices will naturally and freely serve that love well. When we give freedom to another, we really give freedom to ourselves. This is such a fantastic meditation, and I think in any relationship, I think there is a certain amount of desire to want to change the other person. I think we've all been there, even if it's on the smallest level, I know that when my husband and I got together, he's 12 years younger than me. We were at very different points of our lives. And to try to get those times lined up with he was starting a career, I was ending a career and things like that, I think was difficult at times. And so I think what really came from that, right, was us appreciating our differences, instead of trying to change the other person to align with who that person is. And, it's really, over the years, it's really worked. And the thing that's crazy is that I think by our allowing the other person to be their own whimsical, creative self, it has allowed the other person to, be free in their own way as well. People always will say, oh, Alex should start a channel. Alex should start a channel. Alex has thought about it, but he's not somebody that's super interested in YouTube like I am, right? And so it's not like I go, oh, you should start a channel. I mean, I've said to him from time to time, it would be nice if you started a channel because we could do videos together. But I know that that's not his passion. I know that's not his desire. He loves to do fashion stuff on Instagram, And I think it's really about letting the other person be who they are. And I think often in relationships, that's really, really, really hard, It's we think to ourselves, well, if they were more like this, or if they were more like that, or if they were less like this, or if they were less like that. And ultimately what we're trying to do is we're trying to change somebody, I had a friend of mine that told me this, 20 years ago, and I love this little thing that she said to me. It's called the 90-10 rule, and I'm sure that's not factual, right, the percentage, but she called it the 90-10 rule, and I said, okay, what is it? And she said the 90-10 rule is when you're with somebody, and let's say you're getting 80 to 90% of what you wish you, of what you want in a relationship, right? But there will always be that 10 to 20% that you're looking for in something else. You're God, I wish this person was, I don't know, more this, more that, more this, more that, or did this, or did that, or whatever, right? And then you get out of that relationship because to some degree, you feel unfulfilled, your love tank isn't filled, right? And then you get out of that relationship. And I'm not saying, and this is not I always say this, not about very serious situations. I'm talking about one relationship to the next, instead of working on that relationship and learning how to communicate to that person, these are my needs, can you meet them in some way that isn't about changing you, but that's about who you are as a person, and what do you need from me, and let's communicate more, which is why my husband and I are such huge advocates of marriage counseling, because that really, really, really helped us, right? What happened with marriage counseling was it brought us from here to the point where we could start communicating what our needs and our desires were to one another, in ways that each of us heard it. So it was we didn't have at that point anymore two languages that we spoke in a relationship. It was we were speaking the same language, so we both heard what we were saying, if that makes sense. But she said to me, you know, like the 90-10 rule. So you get out of a relationship thinking like, oh, like, you know, he or she wasn't this, wasn't that. And then you like are out there and you're single and you're dating, and it's like you're looking for that 10% you didn't have in the other relationship. So you start dating somebody and you get that 10% you were looking for, right? But now there's 10 to 20% and other things that you're missing that maybe the other person had, or maybe neither one of them had, right? So you're constantly looking for this 10 to 20% that you're never going to have. And it's not about settling. Like whenever I say that to people, people are always like, so you're telling us that we should settle? No, I'm not saying that you should settle. Like when friends of mine are like, so you think that I should settle? No, it's not about settling whatsoever. It's about being real, okay? And no person out there is perfect. There is no perfect match for you. Like all these reality shows feed that whole idea that there's some kind of perfect match out there. No relationship is easy. Every relationship takes work. Every marriage takes work. I have never met a married couple that has been married for 20, 30, 40, 50 plus years that has ever said marriage is easy, you know? In fact, when I got married, one of my very dear friends at the time was almost 60 years married, and I asked him, I said, what advice would you give me about marriage? And he said, divorce is not an option. And I said, okay, explain that to me. He goes, I mean, divorce is an option. It's always an option. He goes, but if you go into it with the attitude that divorce is not an option, you know, things are going to happen in a marriage. And if you can choose to work through that, and you say to one another, listen, we're committed to this. No matter what happens, we're going to work through this. We're going to be a couple through and through, a partnership, a team. We're going to work through this. Then you can get through it, you know. But you have to have that attitude of being a team, being a partner through it all, you know. I've never once talked to somebody that was married 20, 30, 40 plus years that said to me, oh, our marriage is so easy. It's just, you know, I've never heard anybody say that. So the idea that I think, you know, I remember when my parents got divorced, and it was like one of the first divorces like ever in our city. And I can remember going to school, and it was like kind of this unheard thing that people were, that my parents were divorced, you know. And now we look at it today, and it's like, God, like everybody is, you know. And I remember back then, my mom had like 2 other friends that were divorced, and she was like, my mom was kind of embarrassed and ashamed of being divorced. You know, she thought people looked down on her for it. And you know, it's today, it's like, it's just kind of the go-to answer. Well, if the marriage doesn't work, you can go get divorced. And what sad commentary I think that is, you know? I'm always so impressed and so just like in awe of the couples that have been together since like high school. You know, who, I have to tell you this if you didn't know. I read this article years and years and years ago that the couples that have met and stayed together since high school are the ones for the highest rate of success. Did you know that? I didn't know that. But anyway, you know, I'm always in awe of these couples that have like been together for years and worked through it. No, they're not perfect couples. There is no such thing as a perfect couple, you know? There is no such thing as, I'm going to change this person and they're going to be exactly how I want them to be, you know? And if that's your attitude going into a relationship, like, okay, he or she is this way now, but over a period of years, maybe they'll change. You better fix that real quick, like real quick, you know, because that's not an attitude to have. I've had that in relationships, you know. I've had that in my own relationship that I'm in right now at the beginning, you know. For the first couple years, there were things, and there were things, Alex and I have talked about it too, and there were things that he wanted to change about me, but that's not a reality when you're in a relationship. And you have to think about what your long-term goal is. My long-term goal is always to be in a happy, committed, long-term relationship with my husband. You know, I want him to be the last face I see before I leave this earth. And, you know, if to do that, there's a lot of work that has to happen in relationships, and we want to think that they're just so easy. No, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. And I don't think that it's supposed to be, you know? I don't think that anything in my life that has really meant anything to me, like my sobriety or, you know, my education or writing a book or anything, my marriage, you know, I don't think anything that really means anything to me in my life really came easily. No, it doesn't, or it would have no value, you know? And I think that when I look at people that take things for granted in their life, of which I have done many times in my life as well, when people, I see them taking things for granted, it's because they came to them so easily. I think sometimes for things to have value to us, especially relationships, there has to have been some work that has gone in there. You know, one of the things my friend Tanya and I talk about all the time is, you know, Tanya and I have been friends for 23 years. You know, there's been a lot of late night phone calls. There's been a lot of like, you know, tears shed. There's been a lot of like things we've been through together that have bound this friendship. Yes, I could become friends with somebody again tomorrow. Would it have that weight of 23 years? No, and that's not going to happen overnight. It's just not, you know. So you have to allow yourself to look back. If you're sitting there right now and you're in a relationship and you're like, I'm unhappy, or this isn't going the way that I want it to go, or you have misgivings, or that idea of that word divorce has started to creep into your mind, or separation, really think that through. Please give yourself and your relationship another chance, unless you're in a situation that needs serious professional help, like, abusive situations, things like that. But like if you're in a run-of-the-mill marriage or relationship that you're not happy in, but you think there are some things that could change, think about marriage counseling. Go to the other person and say, I love you. I am invested in this marriage. I love us as a couple. Please, will you go to counseling with me? At least try it for one session. If they say, no, I'm not going to do that, whatever, you go by yourself, okay? And let them know. Say, I'm going to go. And I can't tell you where that's going to end up. And you might find out that maybe that's not the marriage for you to be in, or the relationship, or you might find that that person ends up coming. And I hope that for you, And if you're a couple out there watching this video together and you've thought about counseling and you've put it off, get on it. There are some fantastic books out there to read. The 5 love languages changed Alex and I's life. I mean, it really did. It started making us look at things in a completely different way. It's a very simple, like, trite kind of book, but it really will make you look at your relationship in a completely different way. Do a gratitude list. Before we got married, Alex and I, this has really nothing to do with this meditation, does it? But before we got married, like Alex and I kept a gratitude list. And for like 6 months or 3 months before, every night we would write 5 things that we were specifically grateful for that person for that day. And then and we would write them down in bed, and then we would read it out loud to the other person to let them know how grateful that we were for them for that day specifically. There are so many things that you can do, Don't give up on your marriage. Don't give up on your relationship. I think, the hardest times that we have worked through have made our marriage so valuable, so worth it to us today, And, there may be a day that I get on video and I have to say otherwise, and I hope that's not the case. I really, really hope that's not the case. But every day that I get up and every day that my husband gets up is another day that we put forward, and we really work hard in our marriage. And like I said, marriages aren't easy. Relationships aren't easy. Friendships aren't easy. Hell, friendships are sometimes harder than marriages, So anyway, don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. And, keep working hard towards that. So anyway, let me know what you guys think about those meditations in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.